Hello and welcome back to episode 9 of the Dutiful Future Show. What an exciting time we live in. Today I have, surprisingly, a new guest, and this guest is Anna Donaghue.
Hi everyone, I'm Anna Donaghue. I am a second year PACE student, and I'm here today talking to you about dating and politics and fast fashion.
Skipped right over my little intro that I wrote. What a shame.
I'm really sorry.
It's already falling apart.
I have ruined everything.
No, I tried to write a joke on the bus this morning, but I don't think it was very good because we're talking about dating and politics, so sort of the issues of political issues around when you're in dating and these sort of things. Mm-hmm. And I think it was something like it was something like so like me, many of us have a love of politics, but what happens with love and politics?
I like that. That is impeccable.
It's smooth, isn't it?
Do you know what? I think I've ruined everything already.
Imagine if you hadn't interrupted me. I could have just done that.
We can start again.
You know what? We're gonna go to a song now, and I'm gonna start. No. Thanks for coming on, Anna. So we're doing dating and politics for the first large segment. At the end, we're doing fast fashion. Mm-hmm. The main reason that we're covering these two topics is because Anna has written 2 fantastic articles for The Ball on these things. If you want to read them, please do. Just go onto The Ball's website and search Anna Donaghue. Donaghue is spelt weirdly. It is Donoghue.
Indeed.
So read those if you want to follow along what we're talking about. So Anna, what do you describe as the issue with dating and politics? Why is this something that you felt you needed to bring up in an article?
So I wrote this article quite a while ago, actually, last year, and it was something that was pitched, and I was like really interested in getting into starting to write articles, and I saw this and I was like, yeah, that is a bit of me. Don't know why. I just thought it was really interesting. The issue that I definitely saw prevalent was the more and more I was reading about it, the more I was seeing that people were like sacrificing chemistry for the sake of really, really minor disputes in like political standings, basically.
So the issue could be described as people starting to value their, I guess, a political alignment with a potential partner rather than actually enjoying their company.
Definitely. Yeah.
In your article, you cited OkCupid's numbers in a as a survey, which basically said that political terms in dating profiles has increased 64% since 2016. This obviously due to the US election.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this, and not to expose myself to my mum and probably my nan, but I have used Tinder before. And there is a large amount of very political profiles. I've seen a lot of humorous ones. I'm sure you've seen some as well.
Definitely,
not to expose you in front of potentially anyone you know.
No, it's honestly fine.
There's I mean, the classic one is if you lean right, swipe left, things like that.
Yeah, seen that.
So would you say that this is a increasingly common thing specifically for people around our age, or is this something which is more of this is going through all of society, or is this I probably should put it as, is this a society-wide thing, or is this more of a almost like a grassroots movement in terms of people who are just coming into the dating scene?
I think I might be completely wrong about this. Please feel free to correct me if you think I'm wrong. But I think it's definitely something that that has become more and more common with young people, because I know there's the big argument that around the period of 2015, 2016, the US presidential election, Brexit, things like that, the youth was definitely becoming quite increasingly politicised. We saw that with the number of voters going up at the time and things like that. I think the youth also love Tinder. We all love Tinder. Big fan. Don't know how many of us. I can't use Tinder properly. I've had no success stories.
According to my YouTube statistics, 100% of the fan base is on Tinder, and it gives me that every week. I look on it and I go, oh, who listens to the show? Oh, they're all on Tinder. How weird. So we have a very specific target audience tonight.
Hello, Tinder fans.
Hello, Tinder fans.
Tonight.
It's on my bio. It's where all our listeners come from. Yes. Everyone's here just from Tinder.
Hello, Tinder. I would say definitely in terms of the Tinder bios and things like that, it's definitely, I'd say it's a youth thing. It's probably a youth thing. It's a millennial thing. I'm not saying it's exclusive, but it's something that young people definitely like. It's in the humour. It's very Twitter based. I know I saw a thing on Twitter the other day, and it was millennials and politics on Twitter, and it will be really serious, breaking news, something in the news about the election in the US or something, and then someone will reply something about Mariah Carey being a skinny legend. Like, that's just the humour. I think it's definitely...
So you could say that this sort of prevalence of politics and dating is always going to be sort of a natural progression, considering it's now such a larger part of culture. You know, you put in the sense of, you know, someone talking about Mariah Carey under a story about, you know, US elections. So would you say that the main prevalence of politics now as a factor in dating issues is something that's been bred out of politics becoming such more of a factor in people's daily lives?
Yeah, I think so. I think because it's becoming more like part of popular culture, becoming more accessible news. You know, you've got your normal news, you've got your fake news, you've got all the
all the several types of news,
all the good newses. I'd say that's definitely something that's it's becoming a bit more popular. It's in everyday discussion. It's not politics is not just for politics students. It's not just for politicians, and it's not just for like boring old people. Politics is for everyone now, and I think that's why
now it's just for boring young people.
It's for boring young people like ourselves. Like definitely. I'd say like it's definitely now something that you can have like dinner time conversations. When I first got to uni, everyone was like talking about politics, now I don't talk about politics.
Now I just moved off.
I learned the hard way. No, definitely. I think it's so it makes sense why it's coming up more in dating.
So I read an article around this issue, and it was basically making the argument that, especially in recent years, politics has increasingly become more of a personal issue. So whether it be, you know, issues like, for example, you know, women's rights, which is obviously a deeply personal issue to many people.
Definitely.
And since that's become, you know, increasingly more of a political issue, that's why now it's being more incorporated into dating life, because when you looked back, you know, if you look back in older days when these sort of issues weren't very prevalent, politics revolved around things like, you know, finance and things that people didn't really care that much about to their daily lives. But now, since it's so much more personal, that it's something which people almost identify with themselves as their character.
Definitely.
Would you say that's part of what is making this a recurring theme within modern dating?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think... Yeah, you know, they say like the personal is the political, that common feminist term. Of course. So I'd say what you can definitely see is that there are personal implications now in what we define to be political issues, because people might have used to have voted for a certain party, for example, based on, as you said, like economic issues like finance. But now I know, you know, I've had people say, you know, the reason I wouldn't have voted for Boris Johnson in the election is because of his stance on gay people, on women, or, you know, something like that, the Conservative Party in particular, and then it will bring up certain phrases that people have said. It demonstrates the importance of how we speak and the implications that this has for our political stances. I definitely think that is something that's becoming more common. I think it's always existed, but it's something that's becoming... We're a bit more aware of people's views on things like that, and it's more important to us as a society, I think.
So, you know, you see like takes on Twitter with people saying things like, you know, oh, these kids, they care too much about these days, you know, constantly tweet about these sort of things. But could you say that this sort of increased politicization in people's daily lives, particularly in dating, is bred out of simply just a natural progression of having more information? You know, when you have social media nowadays, people have access to knowing everything about what is happening. And by knowing these things, people can form opinions, which they would obviously end up incorporating into their daily lives.
Yeah, I think that definitely plays a big part in it, yeah.
So we kind of gone over why like people tend to be more political, but what would you say, or at least what would you try and guess would be the main things which have led to this sort of divide where people are less willing in order to, I guess, date or go on dates or even discuss these sort of issues with people? And people, so would you say the main things why someone would be reluctant to date someone of different political opinions?
I think it definitely... I've just like lost my train of thought there. I think like definitely politics is becoming like it's becoming more accessible, and it's definitely something that, you know, if you have an identity shaped upon a certain thing and somebody completely disagrees with you, and political discussions, as we know, can become really, really heated. I mean, when I first got to uni, I had like, you know, two of the boys that I live with now, they're like my best friends. We had like an argument in like freshers about politics, and I was like, oh my God, I do not agree with you on anything. Like, it can get like really, really, really heated. But I think what often gets lost in those sort of conversations is like, yeah, you might have a different opinion to me, but why am I, you know, I don't think I should be excluding myself from somebody with a different opinion. I think it's really valuable to discuss things with people. I think, the issue is where things can become really heated. We let politics really come between our relationships in that sense. I can completely understand why people don't want to, for example, date somebody or befriend somebody of a different political affiliation, especially if there are like two extremes. But at the same time, I think it can be a little bit, it can sort of close a lot of doors.
So would you see this sort of increased, I guess, polarization in a sense, more brought out of an individual concept or more of a, I guess you could say, collective? So a lot of people talk about the increased, I guess, political polarization as a whole. Would you say that this increased divisions across the country and across politics has bled into people's lives, or is this more of people as individuals sort of ignoring the wider scope of polarization, simply just saying, "Oh, I don't agree with this person. I don't want to, I guess, relate with them in any sense."
I think it's definitely group polarization. Like, you know, like what you were saying about the Tinder bio, like if you lean right, swipe left, whatever. I think that's definitely something that's a group thing in the sense that in that bio specifically, not to overanalyze someone's Tinder bio because
it's all I do.
Yeah, well, but in that sort of sense, you're grouping the entire right wing into one collective and excluding every single person from that group. That's fair enough. That is of course somebody's choice. But what I'm saying is, that's a group issue. That's not an individual issue. It's not like every single person that you meet, you discuss politics with them, and then you make a decision based upon that conversation or their political leaning in particular to decide whether or not you want to befriend them. It appears more to me like, you know, you don't agree with me, you are completely excluded before we've even had the conversation. I think like an important theme of my article is more so not necessarily like, oh yeah, like let's all date people we completely disagree with, but it's like, okay, let's not, you know, quit while we're not ahead.
Yeah.
That was a really bad phrase.
I guess you could just say, like, if you know, reading something on paper, say like anyone you ever talked to, you were given a sheet of paper about like what they believe in their sort of personalities, you wouldn't instantly cross someone off because you had, you know, a couple points of disagreement, for example.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's more about tolerance rather than
definitely
just say, and I guess my question would be, could you say that this is perhaps almost like a trickle down effect from, and specifically from the right versus the left example of, you know, lean whatever, swipe whatever, of sort of discourse in the public sphere. So where if you're looking at right-wing media, all left-wing people are, you know, vapid, stupid, and all that sort of thing. Where you're looking at left-wing media, probably quite similar things. All Brexit voters are racist and dumb. So would you say that this sort of public discourse has trickled down to people's daily lives where they think anyone in these senses are exactly what these things that I've been told they are? So therefore, like, when a left-wing person sees someone, you know, someone's bias for some reason said, you know, I'm a Brexit supporter, you'd think, oh, that guy's a racist. I'm out. So it is a byproduct of public discourse bleeding into daily life.
Yeah, certainly. I think as well we're all guilty of it in one way or another, because I think what is really important about public discourse, about the media, about, you know, big conversations that are going around is that even if we try, they do impact us. I'm guilty of, I'd say I lean particularly left, I'm guilty of having like that instant when somebody says to me, oh yeah, like I voted Brexit, I'm like, for like a second. But I think the importance is like, I'm going to try and use like a phrase right now. Which
you can do this. Let's go.
No, but you know, it's like, about perceptions about people. Public discourse and upbringing and all these things will give you an instantaneous perception about people. And I'd say your initial reaction to something doesn't necessarily define you. It's how you then process that reaction. So somebody might say to me, oh yeah, like I'm a Brexit supporter, and my brain will go, no. And then, and then I'll go, actually, no, do you know what? Like, now I think about it, this person might have voted Brexit, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to disagree. They might say to me, oh yeah, I voted because of this particular reason. Like, you know, my best friend Tor, we were talking about this the other day. We've got really big, like we really differ on our political leanings, but I was saying to her and she said to me that I think I can really respect somebody else's opinion if they can explain to me, oh, this is why I voted, and it's not something completely ridiculous. So I think the important point is like, public discourse is so influential and how we think, but then it's how we use that information and how we process it that can help us in the long run.
So you could perhaps say that when someone tells you their political beliefs, if you disagree heavily, like, I'm quite the same. I lean more left. But a lot of my friends and your friends as well, obviously, are more right-leaning. And I tend to think when we talk about these sort of things, even if I don't agree with them on what exactly it is, we generally agree on what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
So, for example, a lot of our right-leaning friends, they think that homelessness is a massive issue. And one of the biggest ones, they just see a different route to doing it. And I think, okay, I think your route's wrong, and we'll talk about it, but I believe that they are along the same lines.
Definitely, yeah.
So you could say that perhaps what people should be looking for when they want to align their beliefs with someone isn't necessarily policy, but more what values does this person hold.
Definitely. I think politics and values, they might appear to be quite similar, but they are, in fact, quite different in that sense. So I think, you're completely right about what you say there. Like, it's about looking more deeply into things, which is why I think we shouldn't completely dismiss people based upon, like, oh yeah, I'm voting for this person, I agree with this policy.
Very interesting. Well, in this first segment, we have definitely established the problem.
Indeed.
So tune into the next one to hear the solution, and also some funny facts and stats that I've managed to collate around what issues people actually care about and vote for.
I'm excited.
We are now going to go to our first song. This is Billie Eilish's No Time to Die. Enjoy. Hello and welcome back to the segment 2. In our first one, we established some problems with dating and politics as an issue. And in this next one, first of all, I have a fun quiz for Anna.
I am very excited.
So I managed to find a fantastic survey, I think by the Huffington Post, basically where they asked Americans from all across the country and of different ages what were the main issues and to what degree would you basically care about if someone you were trying to go on a date with disagreed with you.
Okay.
So the question was simply like, so for example, one that's not on this list, I'm trying to think of a random issue. I don't know, like, do you like this senator, for example?
Okay.
And it was, so if you liked them and they didn't, would it be impossible, difficult, or like fine? Wouldn't matter.
Okay, right, okay.
So I have a list of the issues in American politics. So you can try and guess some of them, and if you can't, I'll just throw them out. You can try and pick where they are in the order. And I have their numbers on how impossible they were to try and work.
Okay.
So what do you reckon was number one? I'm not going to start from the bottom because the bottom one's really random and you'll never get it, but it's really funny.
So this is a complete disclaimer. I am not a big US politics fan, so I am going to be very bad at this.
My tip is don't go for Brexit. It's probably not Brexit.
It's probably not Brexit.
It's probably not Brexit.
I'm going to say it's not Brexit. But no.
Do I have a bell sound? I've never tried the sounds before. It's fine. Ding ding. You're right. It's not Brexit.
Yes.
What else have we got?
I'm going to say the top one, and I'm going to it's the most obvious one, probably the 2016 presidential election, or like whether or not you're Republican or Democrat.
That actually wasn't on the list, but it probably should have been. It was more specific issues.
Oh, okay, right. Can you give me one?
I'll give you one of the ones that's on the list. So abortion is on the list.
I'm going to say that's relatively high up.
That was very high, yeah. But that wasn't. So where do you think that was? And so I've got 6 things. Where do you think abortion was on this list?
I think it was second.
It was third.
It was third.
It was actually surprisingly low. It was obviously high, but like that's in terms of impossible. It had a large margin of like difficult.
That was definitely going to be one of my guesses.
Because I think it's quite a grey area in the United States of like, 'cause some people are fine with it happening, but the argument's like where the line should be.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's where like a big issue can come down.
Yeah, I can see how that kind of plays into dating.
Yeah. What do you think was number one?
Oh God.
Ooh.
This is really pressure. Something to do with like race.
No, actually, race wasn't on the list. Surprisingly, number one was LGBT.
Okay, right.
It did have a little disclaimer, which basically said that it was likely that we had people in the survey who were LGBT.
Yeah.
So of course it would be their number one.
Of
but
course.
that was basically like right up there. That was number one with a large portion of impossible. So which kind of makes sense.
Yeah, of course.
I think that's quite a reasonable one. So what do you reckon number two could be? Number two is very American. It's about as an American as you can get for a politics issue.
Oh God.
Do this. What screams American culture to you? Think of Texas. Can do this.
Guns.
It's guns. It was gun control.
Guns.
Gun control was number two.
I'm really bad at this game.
We did it.
You said think of Texas, and I was like,
yep, we did it. So number one was
Guns.
LGBT. Number two was gun control. Number three was abortion. Number four, I might have to just tell you.
Yeah, go on.
It was climate change.
Climate change.
Climate change was number four.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
I think it was quite low, to be fair, because I think the survey didn't obviously ask every single issue on the planet. I think it showed some specific ones, and climate change was kind of low, but like I think it was about 20% roughly for impossible.
Okay.
But obviously that means either side. So it could be a conservative saying, if you believe in climate change, no way, or the opposite.
I'm assuming it's more largely the other way.
Most likely. And the last one, which I could probably give you like the rest of the show to guess, and you wouldn't get it.
Okay.
So I'm going to tell you. 6% of people in this survey said that it would be impossible to date someone if their views differed on government spending.
Okay.
On government spending.
That's really niche.
That's very niche.
That's really niche.
Yeah.
I can see. I can definitely.
I can't see. I think like
I can't see it like on a first date instance, but I think maybe further down the line.
Like maybe if it was like if you took government spending in kind of like a general definition of like, oh, I want them to spend money on like Medicare for all, maybe.
Yeah,
like,
maybe.
Maybe you could believe it there, but like 6%, impossible.
My question is, have you ever been on a date and government spending has come up in conversation, like a first date?
Oh,
this is you. I'm talking
if it was going to be anyone, it probably would be me.
You,
but I don't think so.
And that is demonstrating just how niche.
So it probably is no one. I normally stick to like random obscure movies. That's my thing.
Well, good.
It works. It doesn't work. No, 6% said that it would be impossible to date someone that had different views on government spending.
I can, I can see it if it was an umbrella term, yes, but if it was like, tell me your opinion on government spending. Yeah, because
when I hear government spending, I hear like A-level economics, where it's like, if you think that monetary policy is better than fiscal, I swear to God, I will walk out of this room.
That's it. I'm not even going to pay the bill. I'm leaving.
I'm going to be fiscally conservative on this bill. Bang.
That was really good.
Funny.
Good. Round of applause for that.
Thank you. I'm sure there's a round of applause sound on there. So that was the Huffington Post. Oh, thank you. That was the Huffington Post's quiz.
That's
and
really interesting.
I audibly laughed in the Pace Common Room when I read 6% of people said that they wouldn't date someone because of government spending.
That is so niche.
It's
I love
great.
that.
So I have other stats as well. So between men and women, which do you think have more experienced a ruined date because of political discussion?
Women.
That is true, yeah, women, but not by a massive amount. 33% of women said they experienced a ruined date because of politics, and it was like 28% of men. Which do you think would be less likely to give the person they were with a second chance? So you've had a bad first date, and actually no.
Really?
Yeah. Apparently it was 18% to 17%, so it's basically no difference really.
Okay.
But
just about.
Yeah, exactly,
difference.
like tiny. But it was a quite a very small amount who would say that if the first date was ruined by political discussion, they would give them a second chance.
It was a small number of people that would give them a second
chance. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. That is really interesting.
Wouldn't. Sorry.
Wouldn't. I was going to say that's.
No. It was only a very small, so they wouldn't.
Not out here
chance.
giving second chances.
Hey, in the world of online date, there's so many people.
There's so many options.
So many dates, so many bad dates to go on.
Exactly. Well, I wouldn't know.
Quick transition. Right. Next up. Next fun fact. Which of these percentages do you think is more of an issue in the long? So the question was, do you think that differing political opinions would be an issue in the long run?
Okay.
Do you think men said that more or women said that more? So which one do you think? Which Jenna do you think cared more about?
I think again women.
I think it was a long issue. No.
Am I wrong?
Men.
I'm just thinking from my own mindset. That's why I'm saying women.
Men considerably thought it would be more of an issue in the long run.
See, I would have thought it would be, I'm going to be really traditional here, and I would have thought it would be women, because if you think about like political issues, you think about, I don't know, I'm only speaking from personal experience, but like if I really fundamentally agreed with someone on politics, I'd be like, how are we going to raise the children? I've just realised.
Disagreed, yeah.
I've just realised, disagreed.
No,
I've just realised how traditional I sound there. I'm not. But it is something, the reason I'm saying this is not because I think it's all women.
But it's a priority
it's something that crosses my mind, and that's why I would think it's women.
But generally, I think I think this was also in America, to be fair, but men tend to care more. But controversially, which do you think, which one of the two sexes cared more, would avoid dating partners with strong views more? So
I think
men or women would avoid dating?
I think men would avoid.
No.
Oh my God, I'm really bad at this.
This is the weird contradiction, because despite women thinking it's less of a problem in the long run, 38% of women would avoid dating partners with strong opinions, where only a quarter of men would.
Okay.
Yeah. So the same survey, despite one group saying, "Oh, I think differing opinions will be more of an issue in the long run, they're less likely to avoid people with strong opinions.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. Why do you reckon that is? Why do you think there's such a discrepancy between these two opinions? Because I couldn't fathom one, and I mean I tend to just think that like, there's actually not that much difference between the sexes in general. So it felt rather random to me.
That is really, and do you know what? I can't offer a solution to that without sounding
because I guess
like I'm making it up.
If these were two like random groups of just people, rather than like sexes, I would probably guess like, oh, maybe the group which said that so the group which would say they think strong opinions are a problem but wouldn't avoid them much would have the strong opinions.
Right,
so they'd think my strong opinions would be a problem, but I wouldn't necessarily avoid someone who also has them.
That is really strange.
It is an odd statistic there. It's quite interesting.
It's safe to say that if this were a game show in which I had to win money, I would have left with £1.
No, see. What I didn't tell you is this is a game show, but you don't win money. This is where you try and save money. You lose money if you get things wrong.
Well,
so you currently owe me £25.
Okay,
you're quite a bit down. Do you want to go double or nothing for the last stat?
I do. Yes.
This isn't a gendered one. This is just a straight statistic. If you can get it within, let's say, 10%,
okay,
you can save some money back.
Yes.
What percentage of people said they would only date someone with similar political opinions? I'll give it to you within 5 or 10%? 5 or 10%, do you reckon?
Give me 10%.
You get 10%. You get 10% gap.
I'm saying 35% of people.
35% of people said they would only date someone with similar opinions.
Yeah.
Well, are you excited to hear what the answer is?
I'm really excited. You're making me nervous.
The percentage of people who would say they would only date someone with similar political opinions is 63%.
Oh, right. I'm poor now.
Loads of people.
That is
more
huge.
than half of people in this survey said they would only date someone with similar political opinions.
Jeez. Okay. Well, I'm in trouble at Warwick.
Oh God, I think we all are.
Yeah. God.
This is Warwick campus, for God's sakes. No. So I think maybe there's a potential issue with like what they defined as similar. Maybe?
Yeah.
Because I think if you had told me similar, it means like it would mean something different to someone else. I mean, like, because similar could be defined as everything, or it could be like, oh, we kind of care about the same things, but like not really.
Yeah.
So, but over half of people. Half of people in the survey.
I find that really, like strange because for me, I'm probably one of the odd people out, but I find it really hard to put myself on one day or another somewhere specifically on the political spectrum. I'd say to myself, I'm more generally left, but on some issues, I'm so left, and then on some issues I'm more like centre left. You know, I'm like sometimes centre, I'm sometimes probably a bit right wing on some issues. I'm quite broad, and so I find it really strange because if I were looking for someone with similar political opinions to me, they would be a very, very niche person.
Yeah, it's a tough position to find.
Yeah, definitely.
I guess we could almost say that the problems we described in the first segment were more true than we even realised at this point, where at least you realised, because I hadn't actually read these stats yet, I just wrote them down. But that we actually realised because particularly with the issues of like labels and these sort of things where people identify themselves, if 63% of people would only date with similar opinions, that represents a pretty serious issue. That's over half people who would not attempt to date someone who disagreed with them in a lot of senses, which transfers us greatly into the issue of how, if we need to at all, should we solve this problem. So first question is reading your article, you do ascribe it as a big problem. So why do you think that there is actually an issue of people refusing to date outside of their own, I guess you could say, comfort group? You know, could you not simply make the point like, hey, if all I want to do is date people who like me, I'm just going to do it, you know? Why is this an issue of people not broadening their horizons?
So where was the statistic I read? I wrote it in my article, and it was like, basically I made the point that it really shocked me that people were choosing politics over chemistry.
Yeah.
That was something that I thought was like mad, because I thought the reason I see this as like as a big issue is that, you know, my mum's always told me, like, someone told her, like, along the line, you should never put people in a box, basically, like, in the sense that if you're looking for somebody to date, if you say before you go into things, oh, I want them to, you know, have this, like dogs, like pasta, like, I don't know, like just really random things. Like I was looking on Bumble the other day, and you know you can like put on Bumble the really specific.
I mean, I don't know what that is.
You can even put I use many dating websites, and I've never been on a But don't me, that makes it worse.
Makes it so much worse.
I'm really fussy. See, this is the issue.
mean,
I'm part of the issue.
This is for you. This is a secret intervention, Anna.
This is
That's why I'm getting you to talk about these issues.
Trying to
Maybe
So
you shouldn't put people in boxes.
I'm
Anna.
looking at Bumble now.
Sorry, please continue.
I'm looking at, you can put your height, you can put how often you exercise. Crazy,
Oh.
right? Your star sign, which is important to some people.
Oh, what is your star sign?
I'm a Libra.
I think I'm an Aquarius.
Wow, that is fantastic.
Yeah,
I'm really glad that
what a
we've
world.
impeccable. You can put how often you drink and how often you smoke, which I think is actually really good
I
because
think that one makes sense.
yeah, if you're somebody that doesn't
Yeah.
drink,
Yeah,
whatever.
that makes sense.
Whether or not you have any pets, what pets you have, what you want to do with your life.
Yours put
Do you
political
want-
opinion.
Do you want kids? Political opinion.
Yeah.
Exactly. You can put all these things. And like, I'm looking at it and I'm like, yes, okay. Unless somebody is
Yeah.
above 6 foot, I'm not going to fight about it. But then I think, yeah, I'm putting people in a box and you miss out on,
Putting people in a box that's 6 foot tall.
yeah.
They have to be taller than the box.
It needs to be quite a big box, yeah. No, no. Like I think it's if you look specifically at, oh, I need them to have this characteristic, I need them to have this opinion. You have the potential of missing out on really good chemistry. I know that sounds a bit dramatic,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I do think chemistry can come with people that you completely disagree with, and don't get on with them about politics, and don't most of, as I say in my articles, some of the most important people in my life disagree with me on some of the biggest issues. I disagree with like my best friends on some issues. I disagree with my dad on some issues. Like I love my dad, I love my best friends, but disagreements are part of things. I don't think as a result of disagreement you should exclude somebody from your life.
So you could just simply make the point that by limiting yourself to only agreeing with you, like this, that the 63% do, you are just limiting yourself in general to meeting a lot of people who could be very well suited to you.
And I think as well you're limiting yourself from broadening your horizons, because I think by coming to uni in particular and meeting people with all different opinions and backgrounds and all the rest, I've learned things and I've experienced things and I've seen things that I wouldn't have seen if I'd have just stuck myself in a box. And I think it's the same for them. Like a lot of people have seen, like I've come from a lower socioeconomic background to a lot of people at uni. They've, my friends have come to my house. They've seen how I've grown up, where I've lived, how I went to school and things like that. And I think it's really good for both sides of the spectrum to experience that.
Yeah, so I guess the point that I've made to certain people who are like so far one way is, especially on the left, it's quite a thing to be quite insular and to not discuss things with the other side. It's to say, well, you're never going to convince anyone.
Definitely.
If you stick to these issues, you're never going to reach someone if you are actively shutting them off, and also you're likely to build up this sort of insular hatred over someone if you have categorized them in a sense and you put them in this box and then you say, right, that's what they are, I'm never going to talk to them.
Yeah.
And then it gets stuck in a sort of recurring cycle. So we established it as a problem now. We sort of, it does very much seem to be a problem. How do you think people can go around solving this? What is, if someone would describe themselves, they've listened to this and they've gone, oh, that sounds a lot like me, or I tend to not talk to people if there's certain things. How do you think someone can start getting over this sort of hurdle?
So we're asking me to give dating advice.
Yes.
Right.
Well, no, sort of.
Life advice. I am a life guru, or an agony aunt, as they say.
Oh.
Indeed.
What have you got for the people?
For the people, I would say, the first of all, don't try and convince people to agree with you, because that is where things go wrong. I think one thing I've learned about people over time is, like, you can argue with people, but if someone's got views, they have views. Like, you're not going to change me. I'm not going to suddenly wake up tomorrow and say, I don't think women should have rights. It just doesn't. It doesn't work like that.
It's had a really bad morning.
Yeah.
You know what?
I give up on rights.
I'm done with this.
It's just not going to.
There's just too many.
I think, yeah. So I would say definitely, first of all, don't try and convince people. Second of all, yeah, like don't give up on your views either. So don't be like, I really fancy this guy, but he's
I've stopped
he
believing
loves
what I
the
believe.
EDL, and now I love the EDL. No. Wrong. That is a bad choice on your behalf. I mean, unless, I'm not saying, okay, anyway. Then I would say definitely just like try it. If you don't like it, at least you can say you've tried it. You can say, Anna, you're wrong. Don't ever take advice from Anna again. But I would say, first of all, also sometimes just avoid talking about politics with people. Some people you're never going to agree with, never going to convince. You can still be friends with them. You don't have to marry them and have children with them and raise your children based on political issues, but you can meet really interesting people, broaden your horizons, and just say, okay, I don't agree with you, but you're really good at bowling, and I love bowling. I don't know. That was really niche.
You really like bowling?
No, I was thinking of my friend Isha. She loves bowling.
Oh, okay.
I don't agree with her. I don't disagree with her politically either. We don't talk politics.
But you both love bowling.
But we went bowling and it was really fun.
That's nice.
That's the point. We didn't talk about politics. We just went bowling.
That's why bowling.
So good. She's really good.
So if someone was going to take your last piece of advice that we said, you don't have to talk about it all the time, and apply it specifically to dating, could you not see, when we cited the stat earlier, where percentage of people, they think that it would be a problem in the long run. If, let's say you went on a date with someone and you were hit off and you're like, oh, this guy's pretty cool. Oh, but he said something that or at least you have some inclination that you disagree pretty strongly on certain political issues. And you thought, you know what, I'm just going to ignore it. It's totally fine. Could you not see that becoming an issue in the future?
Definitely. I don't think it's like, oh, ignore it. But I think don't not go on the first date.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? And then don't say, oh, he said something and I really wasn't sure what he was talking about, or he or she or they or whatever said something. I'm really not sure about it. You can ask them. Don't argue with them. Be like, oh, what's your opinion on this or whatever. But I'm saying basically at the first hurdle, don't dismiss it. Sure. Like the whole thing with the Tinder bios and with things like that.
It's before you've even spoken to someone.
Before you've even met them. Because it could be like, oh, yeah, I really disagree with you on that, but every other aspect of our personalities are compatible. We get on really well and you're great. So I guess we're just going to have to figure that out, because, if you really like someone, you do just figure things out. It's like, somebody might be vegetarian and you're not vegetarian. You're not going to be like, oh my God.
Yeah, never mind.
We can't have kids.
Yeah.
What are we going to cook for dinner? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's
yeah, of course.
You don't let things like that get in the way.
So would you say that for someone who'd be quite far gone on one end and was someone who's kind of thought that, like, the person who their bio was, if you're this, swipe left or whatever, do you think that it'd be better to just sort of dive head first and go, oh, I'm texting the head of the Tory Society, let's do it? Or do you think it should be a more gradual process of, okay, I need to start being more open and sort of respectful about these issues, and then sort of, like you said, almost just light it up in a sense,
Yeah, I'd say definitely, there are some issues that I think for some people are completely off boundaries, and I said that in my article, and I understand that completely. There are some things that are just off the table, won't work, whatever. But if there are minor political disputes, just give it a go. Just see how it goes, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But at least you can say that you haven't missed an opportunity or missed an opportunity for chemistry with a particular individual because of perceptions about people. You might learn something new. And
perhaps probably the best advice is just at least from my limited experience as well, would just be lighten up.
Lighten up.
Find stuff you actually like. No one likes politics.
You can talk about films.
Yeah. Even I love politics. And I hate politics.
Yeah, no, I'm the same.
It's awful. I love it, but it's awful. It's
I love it as a subject. I hate talking politics with people. It just gets too much.
I like it.
Yeah, I mean, Hugh likes talking politics.
Depends who I'm talking to.
And it depends where the situation's going. But I often feel like I don't like having to prove my point, especially in a politics environment, like in the Pace Common Room, where everyone's knows about
on
politics
it and really wants to talk.
And everyone can be like, shut up, I read this statistic. And I'll be like, I was just saying that I like this person's hair.
I just think Hillary Clinton has nice hair, right?
Yeah, it's one of those things.
She wears nice pantsuits. I'm a fan.
Do you know what? She does have...
Her pantsuits aren't
they're
that bad.
really good.
I despise her fundamentally, but she has nice pantsuits.
Do you know what? Exactly. We've just made an agreement there based upon something relatively
Quick side note, I saw a
political.
photo of a young Hillary Clinton the other day. Not bad.
Okay.
Looked a bit like Carrie Fisher.
Well, you could have had some chemistry with her back in the day.
Or would have done so many war crimes.
So
many war crimes. Oh dear.
Well,
so what would be your final message, your send off for the people, the newly found motivated people to date out of their sphere and say, you know what, I'm going to try it. What would be the one thing that you would say, all right, here's what you got to do?
I would say just do it.
Just do it. Just do it.
Just do it. If you like someone, if you're interested in them, give it a go. It's the same with your friends, same with your family. Don't, and sometimes as well, just don't bother arguing with people because it's not going to work. But don't try and convince people of other things. If anyone wants to argue with me, take me on a date. We'll
buy me a couple drinks,
and we'll argue. It will be like dating and politics in action.
Ooh. And then you can do it whilst listening to this podcast. You can argue with this podcast on in the background.
Yeah, exactly.
And oh, look at us doing my advice from earlier.
Exactly.
Perfect. Well then,
precisely.
Unfortunately, this fantastic discussion around dating and politics has overrun over our supposed next segment.
Goodness.
It's just such a fascinating topic. So we have, let's go 2 minutes. I'm going to ask you one question about fast fashion.
Okay, go.
Fast fashion. I have some stats. 80 billion new pieces of clothing every year. The average UK shopper uses only 70% of their wardrobe, and they have about 70 kilograms of textile waste annually. What can be done? What should we do?
Use different resources. I'm talking really fast.
It's fine. Keep going.
Okay, use different resources for buying and selling. Stop buying things new. Because I'm not saying, like, I don't have a lot of money. I'm not saying, like, only shop at sustainable fashion brands that are more expensive. But you've got charity shops. You've got buy a sewing machine. I've got one. They're great.
Vintage stores.
Like Depop. If you like high-end things, Vestiaire Collective, that's it. Fantastic, great. Like, so it depends what you're into. There's definitely options. Donate your clothes, recycle your clothes. Shops like Zara, you can return items of clothing. If you're interested in supporting the environment, it's an easy thing to do. I've stopped buying new clothes this year unless absolutely necessary. Had to buy tights.
See, I had a question now. I was going to say, you said in your article you're giving up fast fashion 2020. My first question was, have you?
I have. Do you know what? I've actually been really successful. The only things I bought are like, the necessities, like socks. That I'm probably not going to buy secondhand. I've actually been really good. I've like redesigned some new clothes. I've bought like a couple.
The sewing machine.
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah. I'm really bad at it, but it's a fun hobby. It makes me sound like an old lady, but I'm a big fan.
So, what would you say are the most mainstream places that should be avoided if this is something that you want to start taking like as a priority in your life? What are the main like high street stores or websites that should be maybe not buy from this place because these are the bad ones in particular?
Well, I mean, I think the good thing about a lot of shops is they're becoming a lot more sustainable. So I'd say like Boohoo, for example, I can order a top. I said I can order a top for like £3 and it's at my door the next day. That is fast fashion in its highest form, but they've even introduced a sustainable collection. So I think not necessarily avoiding places, but first of all, like pushing for the big brands to say you need to make a change. But at the same time, I would say like there are often options in places like H&M, like online shops where you can buy sustainable options. It's changing. It is getting better.
So you could say that the best way to sort of push these corporations or companies into being more green about how they produce clothes is to I can't remember what the phrase is now. It's something. It's basically along the lines of like talk with your wallet in terms of
choose the green options.
By not buying these, eventually they will realise, we've got to sort of act out, which is actually changing, because when I Googled this, I was expecting like loads of stats on, why it's so terrible and why everything's falling apart. But there was actually quite a few good ones saying it's actually this is one of the sectors where green like issues and I guess concepts are actually getting pushed quite strongly. Yeah, and it's one of the highest contributors to carbon emissions in the world. Okay. So, if you can see that it is getting better, that's a good thing. Basically, just keep going. Yeah, I'm not saying you have to, but Anna, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me here.
This has been very fun. Everyone go follow Anna on Twitter at Anna Donaghue. Donaghue is spelled Donoghue.
5.
Follow her on Twitter for more. Oh, and 5. There is a 5. I actually wrote that down.
There's a 5 at the end.
There's a 5. Don't forget the 5.
Yeah, I'm blonde. Follow her on Twitter. And I think my header is a picture of the business school that I took when there was a nice sunset.
Perfect.
Fantastic.
Follow me on Twitter at QSmiley1. Follow the show on Twitter, Dutiful Future. That's it. We are now on YouTube, iTunes, and Spotify. So if you ever want to listen to this in any other form, please check that out. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. We're going to go to our last song and ad. This is Glass Animals with the title Your Love (Deja Vu).
Amazing.
Enjoy.